Welcome to the Steady On podcast, where God's hard truth meets your hard story. I'm Angie and this is episode 118, Arise. And with me today are staff members of Arise Ministries, Hiett and Kanaly. Arise Ministries was founded to empower single moms to create healthy homes. And Mel and Pam both know well why supporting single moms is so important. Pam raised children alone for 5 years, and Mel raised children alone for 9 years. Today in our conversation, along with pieces of their stories, you will hear some of the unique ways single moms experience isolation and how, unfortunately, the church often isn't very responsive to that need. We'll talk about how we can better reach out and lend a hand to women who often feel overwhelmed and misunderstood. Pam says during the interview that almost half of children born today are born into homes where their parents are not married. The thing that statistic says loudest to me is that many people are facing these circumstances, and we as the church need to increase our awareness and compassion to those who are walking this path. My verse today was powerfully shared by Mel during our chat, and it comes from Colossians 1:17. I'm reading it here in the NIV. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. That is an important promise to cling to if your world feels like in any way it is falling apart. He will hold all your things together. He will hold you together. He can do it, and he will do it. It may not look the way it once did, but it will not be a loss when we place our trust in his ability to hold it together. Let's listen in. Hello, Steady On community, and welcome into this podcast episode. I'm Angie Bauman, and with me today are two ladies, Pam Kanaly.
Kanaly.
I did it right the first time, and then I questioned myself. And Mel Hiett, and they are from Arise, a ministry that really focuses on making a difference for single mothers. And so welcome, ladies, to the Steady On community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angie.
Glad to be here, right?
Me too. Yes, we're very excited.
I'm very excited to have this conversation. I do not think in the episodes, this is episode 118. I've talked to single mothers on the show, but I do not think I've had an episode that really just focused on the specific, unique needs and circumstances of women who are raising children on their own. And so I'm really glad to have this kind of conversation. And I just encourage the listener, if you're not a single mom, I encourage you to stay tuned because you probably have a single mom in your life. And so I think probably what we're going to talk about for the next few minutes will be really helpful for you as well as you continue to maybe think about ways that you can love and support that friend or acquaintance of yours. So I'm going to start with Mel. In the time that you were a single mom, how long were you a single mom, Mel?
I was a single mom for 9 years.
Okay, that's a long time. That's a long season of that. And so you were a single mom for 9 years. And Pam, did you have a season of being a single mom also?
I did. I was a single mom for 5 years, Angie, and it was during that time that God called me to begin a ministry for single mothers. And so that's how Arise started. It's 20 years old. So this ministry began with a prophetic word from God telling me that one day he would raise me up to speak to thousands of single mothers. So, I've got lots of hope packed in that right there. And so I was a single mother for 5 years.
5 years. Okay. So I want to hear from both of you first, Mel, and then Pam. What are some of the unique issues and needs you experienced as a single mom, and maybe same or different than now the moms that you're working with are experiencing?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, you
know what? There's so many. So yeah. I'll name 4 or 5. And
pick a couple, and then Mel add a couple more.
Do you know what? I think decision pressure, they're so responsible for everything. There's just so many decisions constantly. That's really hard. There's social isolation. And I don't necessarily mean loneliness, because loneliness is an emotion. I'm talking more about aloneness, that state of being. That's a difficult for single moms. And of course there's stress and fatigue. And I would probably say the top 3 would have to be finances. And you'd probably agree, time management and rearing the children alone is a huge issue for single moms. So those are a few of them.
Mel, you're nodding your head, but maybe what else would you add to that or some unique issues?
Yeah, I think from the parenting side, it was really hard for me to wear multiple hats because when I was married, we had sort of a system of maybe good cop and bad cop, or you're the fun one, I'm the whatever. But when you're the single mom and you're the only one in the house, you don't just get to use your natural parenting style or your natural personality. You also have to turn on this other side to make sure it's not either always strict or always
Yes.
fun. You know, I tend to be, I like to have fun and I want to play but at the same time, you know, we can't have a Ferris wheel in the living room. And so to balance that, or to balance, how do I connect with my child that is like me and my child who is like my ex-husband, now that I don't have a partner that understands that other one. So that was really difficult. I think the biggest thing for me that nobody ever talked about, and I still don't know, we sort of talk about it with our moms, but while I was going through my divorce, a really good friend of mine who is not a Christian was going through one as well. And I remember her telling me, I think this must be harder for you because you're a Christian. Well, I thought it was easier for me because I had a bigger hope and I had a bigger community, but she expressed something that none of my Christian friends probably dared to talk about, was the fact that I felt shame that she didn't. And I also felt like I might be the only one walking through the church doors who was divorced or a single mom. And that was not the case. But the enemy and my own voice was telling me that everyone was looking at me and wondering what I had done, and that my boys were the only ones in this home. And so I really struggled walking in the church doors. And I was in ministry during that time. And I just felt oftentimes like I would walk into the church and I shouldn't be there. I felt sort of like an outsider or an outcast. And once you can pull yourself away from that and you understand that your story is unique, but it's not the only one, then God starts to use it and you start to notice other people. And so that was a difficult road for me to navigate.
Absolutely. You know, I want to mention this before we move on, that another big issue for single moms is when if and when they begin dating again, if that's part of their choice, there's always complications in new relationships with the children. Many times there's complications with the children and the former spouses, and so many relationships intertwined in that as you begin a new season of your life that it's very difficult to navigate. That's another one that was really a difficult issue for single moms when they think that's the place they want to start going in their life.
I have several follow-up questions to what you ladies have just been saying, and I'm going to try to sort of unpack them maybe one at a time, because I want to first, I mean, just such excellent observations already from you guys. My brain is like just popping all over the place, but I really want to think about what Mel said about the, like, trying to, I almost think about parenting it from like both sides of your brain, like at the same time or something, where we do have natural tendencies. I've been married to my husband 23 years now. We have two boys, 17 and almost 18 and 12. We have roles. We have parenting roles in that, you know, the boys know when this has happened, which parent they sort of seek out for that kind of like either encouragement or like, and they know. And my older son kind of laughs at me. He's like, I go to dad when I need the facts. I go to mom when I don't know what to do with my feelings. Like, you know, like it just, and to remove part of that, either through divorce or death of a spouse, I think that would be overwhelming at times where you're like, I'm not equipped to parent from this perspective. I wonder, Mel or Pam, either one of you, when you found yourself wrestling with that, how did you address that, like, need in you or need for your child? Was that all just something you had to learn inside? Did you have help from other people in your life? What did that look like for you when you faced that obstacle?
Go ahead.
You know, at first, I don't think I did a great job of it. And I probably overcompensated, thinking I can't just be the fun parent. And I was so afraid that I had messed up my boys from going through the divorce and working in the church. You know, so many fears. But once I realized what I was trying to do, you know, you're wearing a shoe that looks really good, but it doesn't fit well. So at the end of the day, you take it off and your foot is just throbbing and you have blisters. That's what I felt like. then the Lord made it very clear to me. And I know people say this all the time, but he spoke this very clear to me, that I love your boys more than you. And I have more capacity than you. And I want you to put people in their life who have the same morals as you and the same voice as you, but are different than you. And so I just went to a couple of men in my church. This is why I think it's so important for single moms to be in church community, because I sent 3 text messages and had men who agreed to show up in my boy's life. That was 13 and a half years ago. 2 of those guys are still very involved. One of those men still has lunch with my son, both of my sons, but in different ways, every week. So for me, it was, if I'm insecure about this area, I don't want to parent out of that. So I found people to just walk alongside that. They didn't parent or discipline, but they took other things off my shoulders. I've never been a boy, and I've never woken up thinking about, I'm just going to say this, like sexual things. I wake up like thinking about breakfast
and what you have to get done this day.
Yes.
Yeah. Laundry. As a mom, you wake up thinking about laundry.
And I thought, how am I, my son asked me this like really crazy question about his body in the mornings. And I thought,
I don't even have the answer.
No, but I know I know someone that does. And I just asked Randy, I know this is going to be uncomfortable for you and him, but would you be the guy that talks to him about, I can tell him how to be a man, but you can show him. And I made sure to do that. So I just was like, I have to do this by myself, but I don't have to do this by myself.
I love that. And I want the listener to hear that. Like there are things that you think you can't do on your own, and you can. And there are things that you don't have to do on your own. And it is okay to reach out, because the Lord will provide people to come around, and you're worth the time, and your kids are worth the time it takes to find some help. Yeah. I think that's really important right now. Mel, did you work at the same church that you were attending? You said you worked on staff at the church when you were a single mom. It was all the same.
Yeah, I was a student pastor.
Okay.
So bless my boys' hearts, especially the oldest one. For several years, I was his youth pastor, and his mom, and his Uber driver, and all of the things. Yeah. His tutor.
That's hashtag a lot of things, right? Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. Well, would you, both of you, I'll start with Mel again, but what are some of the hurt inside the church? Because you indicated that it can be a unique hurt for those inside the church. What are some of the obstacles and hurts? You mentioned shame, but that we in the church encounter as single moms.
I think the church sometimes just doesn't know what to do with single moms. Where do we have a group for them? Who leads that group? We have over 30 single moms that lead single mom groups. And I don't really know that single moms are the best ones to be leading that, but they're the ones that are doing it. And I think that the church could do a better job of making a space for them. I don't know, I'm thinking that in scripture is calling us to take care of the widows and the least of these and all of those things. And if we could read that in a lens of that single moms, and we don't have to go into the biblical history or not in the Bible for many of the reasons, but what an opportunity, because Pam, what's the statistic of, it's the fastest growing demographic in America are single parent homes.
Yeah. It is.
All of those statistics. And I think that should be alarming to the church. And if the next generation is being raised in homes that have one parent, we need to be ahead of that as the church. We need to be making a space for these moms and removing the obstacles and addressing the shame. Right. If you're walking in here, we have a single mom leader who said, I started this group because on Dedication Sunday, there wasn't one single mom on the stage. And I knew there were single moms in this church. So what if we started addressing the elephant in the room, and that there are single moms, or we always say, if you're not a single mom, you know one. Yeah. And that's the tragic truth. So I think for me, it was that I thought I was the only one because I never heard it talked about. I never saw them on stage.
Mhm.
And the Lord put me in a position to be in leadership as a single mom. And I did not take that lightly because I had so many single moms. I had students come to me. I'm being raised by a single mom. So I was super thankful for my story years later, but
Mhm. Well, you know what, in bouncing off what you said, 49% of the children being born in America are born outside of their parents being married. That should alarm the church that this is our future generation. The U.S. Census Bureau said that the fastest growing population in America is single parenthood. The church is going to have to wake up and address, how do we bring in these people? How do we make these single moms and dads, how do we make them feel comfortable? For the normal church person, if you say the word single parent, it evokes an emotion. It may evoke sadness because your mom was a single mom. It may evoke pity. Well, what did they do wrong? Or it might evoke, let's do something about it. But it will evoke a feeling when you mention single mother in the church. And our churches are going to have to start realizing that this is our future generation, where this is where the church is going. And I know when I walked in as a single mother, I felt shame. I was devastated. I had a 2 and a 4-year-old. I walked into my church where my former husband and I went to church. I walked into a church where everybody knew us as a couple. I wasn't anymore. And I walked in and I was like, well, and we actually taught a class in that church. And so I walked in and said, well, I'm just kind of looking for a church for single moms. And this guy says, hey, Bill, do you know a church over here for Pam? She's divorced. And so there's that big D on your forehead. So, our churches have so much to learn in how to handle single moms and single dads that come in, because what they don't know is when you meet the needs of a single parent, which sometimes it doesn't take that much, but when you meet the needs of a single parent, they are the most committed, the hardest worker in the church, the most loyal, the most brave. You wish your whole church should have the character development of single parents. And so our churches have a lot to learn about that.
Angie, we're a little passionate about this.
And I'm sorry.
You do not need to be sorry. No apologies. No, I am soaking it all in. And I am a woman who loves very practical information. And so I'm going to ask you, how do we as a local church make single parents more comfortable? If it's not the single moms who need to be teaching the small group class for single moms, who needs to be teaching that? Because I think I can promise you that those of us who are not single parents feel like, why would they want to receive from me when I don't have that, when I'm not like in the same, life circumstance as they are? So how do we make them more comfortable? How do we do this better?
Well, first of all, I do feel like if you're going to teach a single parents class, the single parents identify with you more if you understand from experience that you've been where they are. I'm not saying married couples can't do it, but in my experience in the past, single moms are, I don't know, they're just kind of territorial. You don't know how I feel, or you've been married for 30 years. How could you know? But I just think, apart from starting a class, of course, we have resources that help people that step into a Bible class to help them navigate through a class with our Bible studies and our questions, that we have resources for that. But other than that, I just think that the churches need to develop an evangelism or an outreach for these single moms in the church. Have a car wash, have a change the oil day, have a holiday for single moms and for kids, and feed them, cookies or whatever, but begin to have activities in the church that draw in the single moms where they feel accepted. And then you'll find them starting to come to church and start to find a place to do. But you need to develop first of all, develop a plan of outreach, Angie, and then you've got to develop a plan of discipleship once they come in.
Plan of outreach that leads to a plan of discipleship. Yeah, that's beautiful. Go ahead, Mel. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, I think Pam, you're right that they want some solidarity in the room of someone who's had experience. But I think it's a tragedy when a single mom feels like she's a single mom of her group, where she does not have the support. And unfortunately, that's what we see. And that's why we've been able to build such strong relationships with them, where they say that, well, the church lets me have this room and lets me meet. A lot of them are paying for the food themselves. A lot of them are begging for a little bitty place in the folder for something. And I just think that a single mom group deserves the same attention and budget and prayer and leadership as a men's group. And something that I think women's ministries can do that is very practical is consider not just for single moms, but working moms. I remember I went to a very, very large church that had so many resources for women, but I could not attend any of them. One, because I was working, and two, because I was single. So I couldn't go to the parenting class was actually a couples class. And that was in the evening. And so there was also no childcare. And then the mom's Bible study was on Mondays at 10 a.m.
That didn't help you.
Well, no, and I'm working. And so I just remember thinking, where do I go and where do I belong? And I don't want to go to the singles class because I'm not actually single. I have two men in my life and they live in my house for free and eat all my food. And so I just felt like if there's not a group for single moms, that the least churches could do is consider working moms in their women's ministry and consider free childcare. You want to tell the story about the mom who asked about how much childcare? I love this story.
This is so sweet. I had a single mom call me on my cell phone the other day, Angie, and it kind of alarmed me because I didn't know who she was. And secondly, I didn't know how she got my number because I don't give out my cell number. And so anyway, somebody gave it to her, and I embraced the call because that's always a divine call for me. And so we start talking. She needed $450 for this or that. And of course, she didn't know that's really not the way I was going to take the conversation, nor was I going to give her the money, nor I'm not sure we had it at that time. But anyway, so we began talking and asked her about a church and would you like to go to church? And she says, I'd love to go to church, but do you have to know all about the Bible to go to church? And I began talking to her about church life, and one thing led to another. And then I said, and there's childcare. And she went, oh, there's childcare? My kids can go. And then she said, does it cost anything? So 90%, about 92% of our single moms in America are unchurched, and they have children. They need to know that church is free and that church childcare is free. And of course, I invite her to come with me, and the story goes on from there. But that just goes to show so many moms out there, they don't know.
We were talking to a room of children's and student pastors yesterday, and we told them this story because I said, they don't know what they don't know. So if you're going to put a flyer or an event and it says childcare, put the word free in front of it. Is someone who's not been a part of this life of Christianity in the church, they don't understand that things like that could be free. And what an open door.
Yeah.
Because when we feed them and have free childcare, they show up.
Yeah. Yeah. I just thank you for sharing that. Yeah. I love that. And as you're continuing to talk, and I keep thinking about the teaching or the mentoring by someone who hasn't been a single mom, but I also go back to this whole, the church as a whole, whether it's car washes, change the oil, Bible studies, whatever. If we have a sincere passion to love the Lord and love his word and love his people, I think if we love these women well, they're going to look past the fact that we've never been exactly where they are, right? They're gonna say, oh, actually, she or he just wants to meet me in this place where I am and teach me something about the love of Jesus Christ, and we can learn from them then about where they are and the specific ways that they the things that they need to remember and know about him. Yeah. Good. So in your ministry, Arise Ministries, and in your work with single moms, or even in your own stories, ladies, are there particular scriptures, passages, something from the Bible that are just things that you really cling to as you do this work?
Well, there's a lot. It depends on the season. It depends
Sure.
on what I'm going through. It depends on, but I would like to say for those listeners that are listening, that Arise Ministries is better known as Arise Single Moms. So you're going to be hearing more and more about it being Arise Single Moms. I wanted to tell you that, but I guess what's been on my heart recently, Angie, is the verse. Let me look at it. Luke 12:48 that says, "Who much is given, much is expected." And sometimes we just have a tendency as we get older and we've done this so long, I'm just going to relax and put my feet up and I've done my share, or not even that. I don't feel that way at all. But I'm just saying, when God's given us wisdom and knowledge and talents, and that it is our responsibility to reach out to others. Who much is given, much is expected. I've been given much, therefore, which is a blessing to me. But Angie, that means so much more I'm so much more responsible for my time, my effort, what I do, what I say, where I go, so that's really been bearing on my heart.
Yeah.
Who much is given, much is expected. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of where I am.
Yeah, I love that. How about you, Mel? Do you have something in particular that kind of guides you in this work?
I do, and I will tell the quickest story ever. And Pam has heard this 100 times, but I
haven't.
I love your stories. You guys, male stories are the best.
I listen and learn. And so when I was a single mom and my son was 4, and he was just my naughty, ornery, energetic second born. You do the first one and they're calm and you think you're great at it. And then the second one.
Stop talking about my life.
Yes. And so I had asked him to clean his room, and I heard, his room was just, I don't know how he got it this messy. And I hear all this banging, and I go upstairs and it looks exactly the same. And he's laying on the floor on his back. And I said, "Buddy, what is going on?" And he said, "Mom, look at my hands. They're so small. I cannot clean up all of this. Look how tiny my hands are." And I just laughed, and he knew how to get me to do what he wanted. And he said, "Surely you will help me. Your hands are much bigger." And I'm helping him. And the Lord just brought this verse that I had memorized just a month or so before in Colossians 1:17 that says, "He is before all things, and in him all things hold together."
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I do that to the Lord. Look at my little hands. I can't do this. Surely. And I'm laying on my back,
my hands are too little.
Yes. And I remember telling him, "Well, your hands were big enough to make this mess." And I know the Lord has said that to me too. Well, like, you were strong enough and had enough energy to get in this situation. And so I love that verse. And I always think of that story. And I know that the Lord looks at me the way that I looked at Jax that day and thought, I'm gonna help you. But so if you're a single mom listening, or you're someone who maybe you're feeling like you do need to do more for single moms or parents, or the Lord's urging you to start something new, to remember that he's before whatever it is, and that he's the one that holds it together. Like, I can sleep at night because of that.
I love that. His hands are big enough to do whatever it is that needs to be done. I love that. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that story with us. So this has been fantastic. So many wonderful tips, so much encouragement. I feel very encouraged just by some of the things that you guys have shared today. And I'm wondering, I always ask this of my guests before I let them go. And that is in terms of resources, and definitely I'll be linking all the Arise Ministry resources. But for you personally, would you give us a look into your life? What are you listening to, reading, watching, studying? Anything goes that is encouraging you in your walk with the Lord and keeping you connected to him right now. I'll start with Pam maybe, and then go to Mel, or you guys can fight it out if that's not the way you want to go, but just any resources that you might share with us.
Well, you know what? I have a devotional book that I really love. It is New Morning Mercies. Here it is, New Morning Mercies by Paul David Tripp. And today's, it just was so appropriate because here on today, it mentioned God's grace doesn't free us to live for ourselves. Real freedom is ever found when God's grace liberates you to live for the one infinite great God who is greater than you, and to serve others. And that just kind of felt right today since we were having this. But another thing I love to do, this was given to me at Christmas by one of our staff members. Lisa gave this to me at Christmas. It's Psalms. It's to read through the Psalms and then write what you like, what you got from it. But what I like to do is read through it. I like to draw stick figures. So I like to read through it. Can you see? And then I draw stick figures that illustrate. It helps me. You remember by visual. I remember
Yeah.
by seeing a stick figure. It's
I
crazy.
love that.
So I go through and I draw stick figures with the Psalms that day. And that's just kind of something I enjoy doing. It gets me in the Psalms, Angie. So
I love that. And the Psalms are so, I love the Psalms because the Psalms remind me a little bit like the hold it together thing where I'm like, you can't be too hot of a mess for God. Like, right. Because the Psalms are like a hot mess of, I love you. I'm scared. I'm dying over here. You're nowhere. You're here. I'm so glad you're here. I praise you. I don't know where you are. It's just all over the place.
my tears are filling my pillows, you know.
Exactly. My bed is wet from my tears. And I love it because it just reminds me you're not too much. Whatever you're bringing to him is not too much. And so, yeah, I love the Psalms too. And I could share my journal with you and you would see the stick figures in mine as well. As soon as you held that up, I'm like, that looks very familiar because I'm a stick figure drawer as well. So that's hilarious.
Are adorable. I sometimes like, and Pam's stick figures are they are incredible.
Well, mine are not incredible, but they
are gifting.
They remind me of the truth that I'm receiving from the Lord that day. Yeah, that's what about you, Mel? What are you using right now?
I don't know if this is advancing my faith. I'm going to skip over the podcast because I listen to a lot of murder mystery podcasts.
Me too.
Keep me on my toes. But I have been reading. I love reading Brene Brown. She has a new book called Atlas of the Heart, and for me, you're not going to find it in the Christian section, but as a Christ follower, it's important for me to understand me and the way that I'm projecting myself to other people. And as a parent, I think it's been really healthy, and as a leader. So I just started that one. And then a friend of mine and we meet every Thursday at 1. I said, I've been meeting with her for, maybe 8 years now, because I found myself only reading scripture for other people. And I asked her, would you meet with me and just talk about, hey, what are you reading? And we've been studying, we pick a different character every week and just study the backstory of that character, because I find myself forgetting, and maybe I should be drawing stick figures. I find myself forgetting that the people in the Bible were human.
Yeah. And
when I understand who their parents were and what they did and where they lived, that changes the way I read that story. So that's not a resource that you can go buy or look up, but that's something that has been helping me maybe understand a little deeper that the Bible is living.
Yeah.
And if it meant this to them, what would it mean to me?
Yeah, exactly. And I love that about the characters, because oftentimes I think we hear like sort of a highlight of someone's life preached out, like we camp on this one part of their story because that's the like easiest preached about or the easiest posted about or something like that, right? And sometimes there's a lot to some of those characters, or if you look at the cultural context or something, you can really dig a little deeper and learn so much about what more is going on in their story than just that little section that maybe we learned as a child or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic.
I brought something today, really, and now that I know that you love stick figures, but it is to you, Angie, to thank you for having us on today. And it says, thank you for loving Arise Single Moms. And there's a little mama and her little boy and her little girl. So you listeners, those of you that are listening, thank you for loving Arise Single Moms. Please come to our resources to help you with relationships, emotional wellness, spiritual growth. And if you see this through a video, enjoy that. And
I told you she's good at it.
I love it. I love it.
How good she is.
No. So anyway,
your stick figures are definitely superior to mine, but that's okay. I do not feel ashamed. Listeners, this has been fantastic. I just want to point out that at ariseministries.net, do I have that right? ariseministries.net. I want to make sure I say that right. You will find podcasts and resources and links and so much. And so whether you are on the single mom journey, because that's been your story, whether, as Mel said earlier, you have a single mom in your life, because we do, and you would like to be more equipped to serve her and her children, whether you are someone in the local church and you think, I don't know that single moms feel safe and welcome and warm here. Arise Ministries is a place to really go and feel like you have some friends to walk along with you, some encouragement, support, advice on how to do this thing a little better. So ladies, thank you so much for spending time with me today and for educating all of us on how we can be more loving towards single moms and be just more compassionate about their circumstance.
Yeah. Thank you, Angie.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for listening. Until next time, peace. For the single moms who are listening today, we see you. You are doing this, and you are doing a great job. And this may feel like it's bigger than you are, but it is not bigger than you are with God. And please let us know how we can help you. Let us know what our churches can do. Let us know what our families can do. We want to support you. And sometimes we need help understanding what that looks like. What you're doing feels impossible at times. I know it must. And we want to be voices of encouragement and love. Colossians 1:17 again, this time from The Voice. He has always been. It is his hand that holds everything together. Next week, Tiffany Patlin will be my guest on the show. Tiffany has a powerful story of a past of drugs and alcohol and abuse and rape. She has experienced so much darkness in her life, but an acquaintance in a writing group invited her to consider a relationship with Jesus, and allowing him to come into her life has changed everything for Tiffany. She's going to be with us to share pieces of her powerful testimony, and I promise you, you will not want to miss it. If you haven't yet, I would be so grateful if you would follow the podcast on whatever directory you're using to listen. It only takes a second, and it guarantees you'll see new episodes and bonus episodes as soon as they drop. Thank you so much for listening. I pray wherever your day takes you, you are walking in the confident knowledge that you are a beloved, cherished child of God. Peace.